DFL Blitz week. DFL? How about DFS Blitz? Week 12, week 13. I didn't change the thing on the screen. It is Doug and Gutta having microphone issues for the second week in a row. This is like week 6 in a row that we've had some sort of issue, but who cares? It's fun. This is all fun. We are a community for the casual player, and casual player, this is what we do. We do casual things like figure out microphone issues as we go. If you are new to the Bankster community, welcome. Thanks for joining us. BanksterDFS.com, $3.99 a week. Get you access to everything we do, all the sports that we cover, and our sports have been on fire lately. We do have the best soccer writer in the world, Jeff Kaminsky, putting up 3 or 4 slates a week as we're in the silly season for soccer. And we've got hockey's been on fire. We've had multiple $15,000 plus winners over the last couple of weeks. One of our members just qualified for the live world final. Basketball's been insane. MMA is insane. Of course, football is great with me and Gutta. All the sports, college. Oh my goodness, college. Troy and Brandon doing a great job with college sports. So yeah, for $3.99 we can get it all. It all runs through our Slack chat. We hang out all day. We're buddies. We have a good time. It's wonderful. Over at BanksterDFS.com for only $3.99 per week. If you're joining us, by the way, please drop a comment so we can see you, we can talk to you, we can have fun, and you can join the show as well. I'm joined as always by maybe microphoneless Gutta. It seems to be working a little bit better. Gutta, how you doing, buddy? We doing okay today? Whatever you did just made it worse. I can't hear a word you're saying. Blow out those eardrums, Gutta. For the brand, my friend. Do it for the brand.
That's better, right?
Nah, I can't hear you. Nothing? I can't hear it. Gosh darn word. What Gutta's saying is I speak Gutta. So this is great. He says, I'm doing great, but I'm frustrated about my microphone. I'm ready for some sports. I'm ready to talk, and I'm going to sit there and make facial expressions that the dumb picks Doug does, and he's going to talk too much. It's going to suck. Hey, Brandon, welcome. Great job this week on all the content you're putting together, Mr. Granulous, part of our staff. Brandon does college football, college basketball, NBA basketball, Euro League, tennis. Brandon does pretty much everything. Yeah, I know. He knows. He knows we can't hear him, but at least we know it's not my computer, and that's selfishly all I care about. But we'll get Gutta going. It worked last week. The microphone ended up working itself out, and Gutta's just going to randomly pop in and talk occasionally, and the microphone works. And then I'm going to let him talk a ton once the microphone works. I'm going to be like, Gutta, get talking. I do have to update our Slack chat here too to let people know that we are live, perhaps, unless Gutta did it. Oh, Gutta did it. Look at that. See, we're doing the thing, Gutta. Are you there? Can we hear you now?
Do you hear me? I don't know. Do you? No.
Nope. Can't hear you at all. I can hear little faint sounds. Listen, folks, this is what happens at $4 a week. If we were like the other sites charging $50 a week or $250 a month, we'd have better microphones. But listen, we do this for you. We have crappy material, great sports content, but crappy technology with my 10-year-old computer that I'm on, so you don't have to pay too much to come join us. You know what? While Gutta's trying to work out the microphone issues, let's pop on over. We're going to do something a little bit different today before we get into our cash game. We're going to build some prize picks and underdog lineups because they're fun and they're really easy ways to make money. If you're not on prizepicks.com, it's basically, all right, Gutta's popping back in to try a different computer. So we're going to pull up Underdog Fantasy, or not Underdog, we'll pull up Prize Picks right here. Head on over to prizepicks.com, put in the promo code Bankster. You'll get a 100% first-time deposit bonus up to $100. Prize Picks doing a lot of fun, too. This is basically, on Prize Picks, you're basically doing player prop parlays. It is a lot of fun. The best part is you do not need to be perfect to win money. If you do their 5 is the max you can put in a parlay. If you hit 3 out of 5, you win a little bit of money back. If you hit 4 out of 5, you double your money. And then 5 out of 5, you can win 10 times your money, unless you want to do where you don't win your money for only getting 3 or 4. And you win, 20 times your money, I think, for a 5 out of 5. And you can go 2, 3, or 4 as well. It's a lot of fun. Anyway, let's take a quick look here over on Prize Picks. You should be heading over to Prize and putting your money in right now. You get up to $100, 100% deposit bonus up to $100. Let's see, today, I do not do unders, even though there's some really sharp unders. I think Mike Glennon under makes a lot of sense. Zach Wilson makes a lot of sense for the under, but Derek Carr leads the NFL in passing yards. Washington gives up a ton of passing yards to opposing offenses. Real easy play there for me. I'm going over with the Derek Carr. We're gonna do a little bit of a game stack here. We're gonna take a look over at Antonio Gibson, who is the only game in town for the Washington football team this week. 67.5 seems a little low for his rushing yards, so we're going to take the over. So right there, we're going to click on Derek Carr. Once you have your second pick, it pops up. We're going to take the over. We're going to take the over here on Antonio Gibson. Then we're going to run over to the receiving yards. I'm going to do a 5-person because I always like to run 5 people. We're going to head down to the Dolphins. For some reason, Devontae Parker is only at 42.5 yards. I think that's a pretty bad Giants defense. And on top of that, when Parker's played, Waddle doesn't get the attention that he's gotten. It's Parker who gets all the work. So I do think Parker's going to be a play that should get a number of targets, 8 to 10 targets. 42.5 yards seems way too low. I will take the over as well, going back to that Raiders game to finish up our game stack, which you don't have to stack here. This is not like DFS where stacking makes as big of a difference. I'm going to go with Foster Moreau. Darren Waller's out. We know the Raiders like to run their offense through the tight end. Josh Jacobs is a little banged up, which he's going to play, but I don't think he's going to get as many passing yards as he normally does. I think Moreau's going to get that work. Even 3 targets with 3 catches for 30 yards will get you there with Moreau. That's a pretty easy over for me. And then finally, we're going to go down to one of the later games on the slate. The Pittsburgh Steelers have been really bad against the pass. They've been really bad defensively against everyone, giving up 40 points back-to-back weeks. Been pretty awful. So we're going to take Marquis Brown. He's seen 10 targets minimum every single week. He's just been a beast since the middle of last year. I'm going to take the over here on Marquis Brown. So we've got Derek Carr over, Antonio Gibson over on the rush yards, Devontae Parker, Foster Moreau, Marquis Brown over on the receiving yards. I'm going to throw it in for $5 to win a shot at 50, but I get $10 if only 4 of those are right, and I get $2 back if only 3 of them are right. So they keep you playing, which I love. Promo code Bankster gets you a 100% deposit bonus up to $100. Good job over there on Prize Picks DFS. Now let's take a look here over at Underdog to see similar thing over on Underdog. Underdog's great for best ball, but also they do have a basically a prop parlay, a player prop parlay. You do have to get them all right. So I generally only run 3-man on here because it's really hard to get 5 things right. Listen, the Buccaneers are fantastic against the rush, but they have been giving a lot of yards out of the backfield. Cordero Patterson, pretty much the only game in town for Atlanta. Kyle Pitts hasn't really done as much. Russell Gage is not a game breaker type. So I do think combined rushing receiving yards, 76.5 for Cordero Patterson is the way to go. By the way, if you head on over to Underdog right now, put in the promo code PHISIGGERS, PHISIGGERS, you will get a $10 bonus to start playing. Joe Mixon scored a touchdown in like 8 straight games. Cool. Let's make it another game right here. Let's go with the over on 0.5 rushing TDs. The Chargers suck against the rush. Cincinnati's playing at home. They're a favorite. Makes a lot of sense to me to run Joe Mixon here. And then finally, this one's a little more off the board, but they pulled it off. I was going to go with DK Metcalf, but they pulled the prop off the board. I think Metcalf's a really good tournament play this week because last week there's so much narrative about him not getting the ball, and so people were a little pissed off about it. I think they're going to try to feed him today in a game they're going to have to probably throw. But obviously we're not going to go with the over there, so I will just you know what? The Baltimore Ravens really bad against the pass, particularly the deep pass. I think 56.5 is a little bit high on Chase Claypool, but he can get there on one play. So I'm going to take the over on Chase Claypool. I think he's a great tournament play with everyone going to Deontay Johnson. So I'm going to take the over there. So we've got Earl Patterson over 76.5 combined yards. Mixon gets a touchdown. Chase Claypool over 56.5 receiving yards. I'm going to throw $5 in there. $30 to pay out. 6-1, not bad. You could go up to 5, but I just think it's really hard to go up to 5. So we're going to take the $5 and try to get that win. And there we go. Underdog Fantasy, promo code PHISIGGERS. Now, as always, what we like to do here as we move into the league. Oh, we've got some people in the chat. Yes, thank you, Matt. You know, Matt, I should have put this up a little bit earlier. Matt loves the value per dollar spent. Way better at Bankster. Yeah, $4 a week. We give you a ton of value for $4 a week. It's a lot of fun, and it's a great community, and the money is off the charts for some people. If you're doing it right, you're doing it right. You're going to make that $4 back very easily, and then some. And then, you know, who knows? Maybe you'd be like Paul, hit for a $17,000 NHL live final. Be like Sean, one of our writers, Sean Goodwin, our NHL guru, hit for 20 grand a couple weeks ago. But even we had a guy, Mark. Mark yesterday came in, and Mark took $15, turned it into $200 in NBA yesterday. Can't beat that, you know. Steven put together a really good player pool last night. What's up, Jeff? Ooh, you've got the best soccer writer in the world in the chat, people. Throw some questions in the chat for Jeff about soccer. The single best soccer writer in the world, 2019 FSWA Soccer Writer of the Year, Jeff Kaminsky joining us. Good morning, Jeff. Nice to see you. Let's see if Gutta's microphone works now. Pray. Let's go, Gutta. Talk. Let's hear it.
Can you hear me?
Oh, Gutta! We gotcha. Gutta's here.
All right, there we go.
That worked out perfectly in a way because I ran through our promos for Prize Picks, ran through our promos for Underdog, which we're going to start to do every single week because they are fun. And here we are. Gutta is with us, and let's just get right into it, Gutta. So as we did last week, I put up a guess of where I think the chalk is going to be in cash games instead of just rolling out the list. And here's where I think it's at this week, Gutta, because I know you are our roster percentage guru. Here's where I think most cash games are going to start this week, and tell me where I'm wrong, and we'll talk about philosophy of cash games this week. I mean, Gardner Minshew is going to be the cash game quarterback, right, at $4,000. Is there anyone else who we should even consider at cash games, and is he going to be the chalk this week?
Probably. It's tough, right? I mean,
really,
the week that Jordan Love played for Rodgers, Love didn't carry as much ownership as I thought he would. And I mean, this obviously is a different spot, a better spot. We've seen Minshew kind of do it, but I mean,
but there's a distinct difference between Minshew, what he can do versus what Jordan Love can do, right? I mean, we don't know what Love can do. We know what Minshew's done in the NFL.
Yeah. I mean, I'm very, very torn on it. I'm actually very torn between Minshew and what it can do for the lineup, and using Tom Brady, because Brady right now is the cash lineup that I currently have, and I don't know. It's tough. I mean, Brady has been so good against Atlanta. Atlanta's just so bad, especially defensively. The Jets are as well.
But is he crazy? Do you think he's going to go?
I mean,
don't you think Fournette? Aren't you afraid Fournette's going to just carry the load?
Not really. I mean, yes, you could see something like last week, but it all depends too how things kind of fall. Like last week, on so many of those plays, everything kind of fell perfectly together that they were getting stopped inside the 5, and Fournette just cleaned it up. Fournette got the receiving touchdown. So I think I'm not really worried from that aspect. And if we also just kind of take a look as well, I mean, yes, I don't know if it's Jalen Hurts or if it's their game plan, but I mean, Hurts has only cracked 200 yards once in the last once in the last 8 games. Is that because Hurts? Is that because
Hurts
takes
off?
Passer?
He just wants to look at those rushes: 18, 13, 10, 8, 7. And the team's been running more. They don't want to run, but they don't want to pass. But they're not going to run Minshew 15 times. Do you think they're going to give the ball to Miles Sanders 40 times?
They're not going to run. They're not going to run Minshew. But I mean, could Scott and Sanders combine for 35 rushes? Quite possibly. I mean, they've been much more run heavy. Again, is that because of Hurts' skill set and the way that the offense works better? It's definitely a part to it, but I think there's a distinct chance Minshew doesn't throw it a lot either. Again, you don't need much at the 4,000 part. I just think that if Minshew, let's say Minshew is fine, but he only gets you 12 points because he just doesn't do much.
Right.
Is there enough output from the other positions that it's going to make up for it? I think that's the real question.
Well, I mean, what's the numbers telling you? Are they showing Minshew is going to be there, or is Brady still above him this week in terms of roster percentage? Like, where are people going for cash?
Brady is still above him, but him and Minshew are pretty close.
Are they? Because I think here's the thing, and I'll just kind of look at the overview instead of just position by position. I think this is going to be a wildly popular cash build because Gardner Minshew, Foster Moreau just open up so much for you. They allow you to Jonathan Taylor and Cooper Kupp in your lineup. Antonio Gibson on both sides, on FanDuel as well. It's just stupidly underpriced this week and a great matchup. A team you run against as the only game in town. Devontae Parker is super low priced, especially up against, he's the guy who gets all the targets when he plays. Waddle's not getting the 12, 13, 14 targets a game. It's going to Devontae Parker. He's got, 7-9, 7-9, 11. Like, that is great for $3,900 in a game that Miami should control. And because of all the value you can get, Miami defense is opened up to everyone going up against the neck. You know what I mean? Like Glennon's terrible. He has no weapons around him. I mean, Barkley's fine, but I don't think he's 100%. And then he just doesn't have. I mean, Galladay hasn't been game breaking. He's never been a game break kind of a guy. It's like, so what do you do? So I think this is going to be a very popular build, and cash games are going to come down to who's your last receiver, who's your last flex play, and then for me, the way that I see it, it's really easy to go in there and go with the other popular wide receiver for the week. It's going to be Deontay Johnson. You could pop it. He fits. Deontay Johnson fits, and that leaves you just enough money to go in and grab who I think will be another popular play because should get all the work for Detroit is Jamal Williams. I don't love Jamal Williams, but I think right here, this is going to be, if you put any lineup you could together, this is going to be the lineup that carries the highest combined roster percentage of any lineup you could put together this week. And for that reason, and I do think it's going to be very high. And that makes me not want to play cash this week. I don't want to play cash because I think it comes down to those decisions. I think it's going to come down to what do you do with those decisions? Johnson's, or do you try to go somewhere else? Do you go with a mix-in and then try to just spend all the way down to, Sony Michel? I think Sony Michel, 1,100. Nope, doesn't even let you get to mix-in. So I don't even know. I don't know what else we can do. Like, I just think this is the lineup that people are going to end up going with. And seeing there's Matt asking the same question. I know, Matt. I love Mixon. I'm going to play him a ton in tournaments. But I think the way the build is going to work this week, I don't think he fits because I think people are going to want to go with Taylor and Kupp and Deontay Johnson, and you're going to have to find you could come down from the Dolphins defense, but then I think you're putting yourself in a real problem if the Dolphins do something, which I hate to focus on defense so much, but like, I don't know. What are your thoughts on this kind of a lineup, Gutta? Do you see this being kind of where the chalk is going to go, or am I just way off in my thinking?
No, I think you're going to see some different. I don't think you're going to see that. I mean, that type of build will be in the area, but Deontay and Williams actually have come down quite a bit on ownership. I mean, a lot to do with Sony Michel and even Devontae Parker because now it's just too easy to get Taylor and Kupp in there with the Minshew news as well. Cash is going to be very, very interesting. Like if you go on the premise, if you go, Taylor, Gibson, and Michelle, at receiver, I think you'll see a lot of Keenan Allen. I think if you have Keenan Allen in there, I think that's going to be much more common and what people are going to end up looking at.
Matt wants to know, what about Kupp? Like, should we just pull Kupp and go Mixon and Renfro? I think Kupp's going to be, I think it's one of those situations in cash. It is not tournament play. Tournament play, I think you can come off a Kupp if you want to. I think, and Gutta seems to be backing that up, I think Kupp's going to end up being the most, if not the most, the second most widely rostered receiver because you can get to him easily. And if he has a Cooper Kupp kind of a day, you're dead in the water because Renfro is not going to have that day. Mixon can have a great day, but I do think that Kupp's upside is higher than Mixon's. And if Kupp goes off, you're screwed.
The way that it's so interesting, the way that this slate has evolved. Earlier in the week, it was like that Deontay Johnson price range. Those guys were all just like massively owned, like even Jalen Waddle. And again, because of all the value that's opened up, it's really changed the full landscape, like really a complete 180. Like even like Cooper Kupp was trending sub 10% because of his price and just how you were able to fit things in, and people were gravitating to Taylor over Kupp. So Kupp was kind of like a good pivot. All right, you spend up at the receiver and you spend down a little bit at running back, and it's completely kind of just done the 180 with it. Like it's gonna be really interesting to see where some of this stuff kind of works out because there's so many damn good spots for running backs, and the ownership is going to be, they're going to see some crazy numbers, I think.
See, that's the thing. I feel like cash this week is going to be so tournament like where you have to get right the one or two the people. And if I'm going to do that, and I wrote this in my article because I'm all about the full disclosure. Like I'm just not playing cash this week. I am on FanDuel because I think there's a little bit more leeway over on FanDuel with the lineups. I think there's a little. I think the numbers will be a little bit different, but over here on DraftKings, I'm just not doing it with cash. I just think that it's so tournament heavy, and the fact that you need to get the one or two players right, because you're going to have to ride the chalk. If you come off the chalk and then you hit, that's great. If you don't hit, you're screwed. Well, that's tournament mentality right there. And if I'm going to come off the chalk and I'm going to hit, I want to do it more than just double my money. So I want to go in and I want to take the whole thing down. So I'm coming off the chalk and I'm not playing cup. Maybe I go with the mix and Renfro. To me, that's tournament strategy. I might as well just run a tournament lineup in that respect and use my mini stacks. I'm far more interested in the tournament mini stacks this week. That's not to say you shouldn't play cash. I mean, obviously I'm the one who writes the cash articles. So if you're not playing cash and no one wants to play cash and cash is stupid, then I'm useless, right? And I don't want to be useless. I just know the way that I like to play. And for me, if I'm going to do that, my mentality is if I'm going to just have to get one or two guys right, I might as well just run a tournament lineup instead. Matt brought up DeAndre Hopkins as well. I love the price on Hopkins. He should play. I don't think he's cash viable because we just don't know about any re-injury, but I kind of think he's tournament viable for sure. Depending upon what those numbers look like. What's his ownership looking like right now? Is it pretty low? Because most people should be on Connor in this game, I think. So maybe run a Hopkins, Montgomery, Mooney mini stack, and that makes some sense in tournaments as opposed to playing him in cash.
Yeah, I mean, right now Hopkins is like basically no ownership.
I like that.
I guess in part because the reports came out that Kingsbury said he's playing. I guess there's technically still waiting for the official active, so maybe I would be hard pressed to think he would be under 10%, just given that price and the name value and all. The other thing that maybe, which I want to double check, because I wrote this yesterday, that the weather in Chicago looked a little iffy for the passing game potentially.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean it's so with Chicago, looks like it's going to be on and off. And with how the forecast is looking, that there's going to be spots where it's going to be just like downpouring with at least 15-mile-an-hour winds. It's kind of what we saw in Buffalo 2 weeks ago against Indianapolis, and that game just became a crap fest always around, except for Jonathan Taylor. So that I think that could be possible there. That especially with Hopkins and Murray just coming back. I mean, again, with the way that they've been playing it, I'm assuming that these guys are as close to full health as you can get in week 13 of an NFL season. So they shouldn't be too limited, but I don't know if they're going to pass it 35 times with that weather and just trying to maybe keep these guys healthy, fully for the stretch run. I mean, listen, I think Hopkins is a great tournament option because at 6,200, I mean, what the guy can put up, it can easily get you almost 5x return for where he can be. I mean, the problem with Hopkins is always his ceiling in Arizona doesn't really justify those $7,800 price tags. But
he hasn't done it yet this year.
No, but at 6,200 with kind of where he's shown his peak to be in Arizona, I mean, he can easily crush that. Like you kind of see his base like the high teens, low 20s. I mean, that's a solid output there, and then you get if he happens to get multiple touchdowns, he's great in the red zone. You're crushing it at potentially very, very low owned. It's just there's a little extra risk, I think, because of the weather and all. But again, like I said, having him in there as a one off, or even you run a skinny stack with Murray and Hopkins, you just say, well, the upside far outweighs the potential downside or risk for a lineup or two. It's worth it, especially with Connor ownership, and it's just a good leverage spot.
I agree with that. I think, I like him in tournament. I mean, he hasn't even gotten to 10 targets yet this year. Like, I just can't use him in cash in that respect, especially
definitely not cash.
Especially when you look around that price point too. Like, if we're going to talk about cash options in that price point, you've got Marquis Brown at 65, who his volume is ridiculous. Like, people don't understand the volume that Marquis Brown has been putting up since the middle of last year. Like, he is a 10 target per week guy. He has how many games under 10 targets this year? 3, 4. Like, he gets the targets. Like, he's putting up 18 to 20 points. He's been better than Hopkins this year for when Hopkins plays. You've got Chris Godwin, who generally gets a lot of targets in that price range. You've got moving down. You've got Renfro, you've got Pittman, you've got Mooney, you've got Ayuk. Like there's just guys who make more sense at that price point than him. Are we looking anywhere else at tight end than Foster Moreau? I mean, because listen, when I amended my cash pool last night, it's the first time I've ever done. I have one quarterback, one tight end, and I really considered putting just one defense with the Dolphins. Like I just don't see why we do anything other than Foster Moreau at this point. Like his floor is the same as Kittle's floor. His floor is the same. It's his floor. He's so I don't know why we wouldn't just spend down, use him. We know how they're going to use their tight end. If he has a shitty game, so what? If he has a good game, as he did the one start he had this year, he put up 18 points. And so, which is kind of where these guys, I mean, what's Kittle done this year that's made him so, that we want to spend $3,000 more for Kittle? He hasn't. He just hasn't done it this year. He's one game over 20 points? I mean, like nothing. So,
yeah.
Is anyone else at tight end, or is it just pretty much, I'm just using Moreau, calling it a day?
No, not in cash. There's no reason to even venture away from Moreau. I mean, one with the ownership he's going to carry, you just kind of need to just eat it because there's nothing. I mean, unless you're the type of cash player that you're going to say, all right, whatever the field is doing, I'm going to fade it for cash and go a different route in cash that's just as viable from a safety standpoint. Yeah, then you can look at some more spend up options. Like I love the matchup for Kittle. Gronkowski is fantastic if you're not using Godwin. I think Goddard becomes a monster play this week because of Minshew. And I think he's going to be the biggest beneficiary of Hurts not being in there and potentially a couple more passing attempts if that comes around. And the other guy, I think, from a cash standpoint, if you wanted to spend something, is Logan Thomas. The Raiders have been really bad against the tight end all year. Thomas is the number 2 option there in Washington. He basically played his full complementary of snaps last week. He only went 3 for 31, but he did get 6 targets. If he builds on that, a bit, I think those are the areas you can look at if you want to, spend up and differentiate a little bit. But I'm just going to take the savings, use Moreau. He's probably going to be 70% owned in cash, if not even over 80%. And you just say F it and just, go with it and figure it out elsewhere.
I'm actually, I know we're in the cash section of our discussion, but I'm actually using Moreau a lot in tournaments. I'm running Gibson Moreau, which will be chalky as hell, but I'm using them with like my Russell Wilson lineups, my Ben Roethlisberger lineup. So when I've got like a fairly contrarian lineup, I actually ride that chalk a little bit because they're in great spots and they're priced well. And so, we don't want to completely fade the chalk either in tournaments. All right, this is the part of the show where Gutta and I ignore you for a little bit as we take a look for inactives. Jalen Hurts officially inactive, Jordan Howard officially inactive, Marquise Goodwin officially inactive, Allen Robinson officially inactive, Damian Williams inactive, Justin Fields inactive, like Marlon Mack is inactive, which again, just the Marlon Mack inactivity is a good thing. Just since he's been inactive, Taylor's been a beast. Philip Lindsay, after having a decent week last week, inactive, which I think is really good for Gaskin, who I do like as part of a mini stack with the Dolphins defense. Corey Davis, active, which, I mean, I don't think you're using Jets this week. I think last week we had our fun, and I'm pretty much off. I haven't even considered a Jet this week, unless you want to use Andrew Walter or whatever his name is. But no, we're not doing that. Let's see. Anyone else exciting that's inactive? Oh no, Kyle Trask. Roquan Smith is active for the Bears, and Gutta talked last week about defenders being active and inactive. Actually makes a difference. We should pay attention to that. So that does not help any of the Cardinals.
No, it doesn't. That's actually probably a little bit of a difficulty for Zach Ertz, if anybody was looking in that way. I mean, I wasn't crazy about him for this week, but that could be something. One thing that popped up later last night, Kendricks is going to be inactive for Minnesota, and he's been the guy that's really held down the defense with them being top 3 versus the tight end all year. That's just made terrible matchups for the tight end. So, could be a route for TJ Hawkinson just because of that. I mean, he hasn't. I mean, he's been so disappointing this year. There just hasn't been much. I mean, last week against Chicago, he kind of salvaged because he scored the touchdown. I mean, he's got 5 straight games with double-digit points, but he hasn't really hit his ceiling, which is just more, concerning. He's got a decent enough floor, but we don't really want that in tournaments. And really, at that price at 5,200, I'd rather use Gronk. He's got a better ceiling. You go down to Gutta, you find a way to go up to even Pitts or Kittle at that standpoint.
Murray and Hopkins are both officially active, which was expected. Matt says no real impact from the inactives. I mean, again, no real, some of the underlying stuff, Matt, no surprise inactives. I think the fact that one of my guys this week, one of my flag planting guys week is Brevin Jordan. The Titans, or for the Texans, he's seen a huge increase in target share lately. Akins is out this week,
so I'm gonna interrupt you. I'm sorry. We got on the Bengals. Interesting inactives. They're missing 2 of their starting offensive linemen today.
That is not good for Joe Mixon.
Yeah, that's
or anyone on the team.
I mean, the Chargers' run D is not good by any stretch. We all know that, but anytime you're missing 2 offensive linemen, it's concerning. It's definitely concerning.
It is. I still love Mixon, but yeah, I get it. Maybe they throw him to him a little bit more. Wonderful. So Brevin Jordan's a guy that I wrote about this week. Seen a huge increase in snap share over the last 3 weeks. Also starting to see some targets as well, and scored 2 touchdowns. He is, if you look at a guy, he's built similarly to Kyle Pitts. He is a wide receiver playing tight end. The Colts are terrible against the tight end position. Gronk rolled them last week. And if you're looking to do a run back on a Jonathan Taylor mini stack, I think, and to lower that effective cost, I think Brevin Jordan can do that for you. Is he going to put up 30 points? Probably not. Can he go 4 for 40 and a touchdown? Yeah, he could. And that 14 points would be huge. He'd even get you 8 to 10 points. He's in a good spot for you right there. Also, for the exact same team, I can't believe I'm just rolling a bunch of Texans. Look, you've got Brandon Cooks, Chris Conley, both playing, both banged up. Nico Collins, by far, has seen the second most amount of snaps for the team. He saw an increased target share. This is also really bad against opposing wide receivers. And if Conley are limited, maybe Tyrod Taylor takes a look at Nico Collins, who played really well in the preseason, was a training camp star, is a guy that the team really likes. So I've actually got some lineups. It's crazy, but I've got some lineups where I've got Taylor, Collins, and Brevin Jordan. It's one of my favorite tournament lineups, has all 3 of those guys. And continuing with the Texans, David Johnson's out, so I mean, it could be Rex Burkhead day. $4,800. Listen, as a pivot off of the guys in that price point, he's got 33 touches over the last 2 weeks, and again, another matchup, a decent matchup with Indianapolis. He can catch pass. If you're starting Rex Burkhead, you're taking a wild shot here, but just because the Texans suck, it doesn't mean that there aren't opportunities to have some value from. I can see in Gutta's face he does not agree with that philosophy.
You know what? It's funny. It's funny you bring up Burkhead, because before we came on, I noticed the David Johnson news, and I'm like, I'm not going to bring up Rex Burkhead. I'm just not going to do it. He's averaged 2.2 yards a carry the past 2 weeks, and I mean, he had a dream matchup with the Jets. I mean, he's got, despite all those touches, he's only got 12.4 fantasy points. I mean, there's just not a route. I mean, yes, Indy got lit pretty good with Fournette last week, but Indy's a top 5 run defense this year. So It's just,
I hear you.
The Texans O-line is so bad. I understand the low own volume, et cetera.
Targets. Who's going to score? I mean, maybe Houston doesn't score, but who's going to get the ball inside the 5?
Tyrod Taylor.
I do love me some Tyrod. Hey, since you brought up, if I do like all the weapons as punt plays on the Texans, I mean, You could do worse, I suppose, than a little Tyrod Love today. You know, I love me some Tyrod Taylor. You know, you love me Tyrod Taylor. I don't run out and go crazy with Houston, but and just don't forget about them either.
No,
bring up,
and I mean that actually that kind of transitions into one thing I did want to talk about this week on the tournament end. There's a real question and concern from me. Well, not concern, but real question and just general. How the heck do we get like contrarian this week? Like, what are we doing to really come off some of this, this chalk that we're seeing? I mean, even kind of Sony Michel aside, expected to carry very high ownership, with Henderson being either really, really limited or even potentially out. I mean, right now you've got, including Sony Michel, 4 guys coming over 25% with Gibson, Madison, and Jonathan Taylor. And even like Eli Mitchell is going to be close to 20%. Like you've got like the 20% threshold is kind of where I start to get concerned about ownership. Like if you got a guy under 20 but over 15, that's all right. You can make do. If it's above 10 but under 15%, not really a big deal. And then anything under 10, it's fine. Deploy him as you want without worrying about ownership. But it's just so easy to use those guys with where value is. So what are you doing? Where are you getting creative? How are you getting creative this week? I think that's just such a big thing in spots that you can be, comfortable with, I think is well. Some guys are going overlooked that, to me doesn't make sense, like Mixon and Eckler being very, very low owned.
As up on the screen, who I think makes some sense too.
Yeah. I mean, I was kind of intrigued by Patterson earlier in the week, but I've kind of lost the interest there. He's definitely the engine that's making this Falcons offense go, but his touches are just so low every week, even though he's the top playmaker, the number one running back, whatever the heck you want to call him. Like his kind of peak, like he had 21 touches against the Jets, and the closest he's gotten is the 18 last week. Like he doesn't really even approach the 20 touch mark, and even getting over 15 is a little tough too.
I mean, I just see what he did against Tampa Bay in week 2 when they were trying to figure out what they did. He only had 14 touches, but 5 of them were catches. He did get in the end zone twice. Listen, he needed to, and his price is up double since then. I get it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But if you're running a Brady stack and you want a run back, that's all I'm saying. If you want a run back on a Brady, Evans, Gronk type of a stack, I think Patterson's the guy you have to go with, because the receivers are not I just don't trust the receivers for Atlanta. They're cheap enough, and Pitts has just been not good. Pitts has not done anything that's separated him from anybody, and he could go off this week. Tampa's not great against the tight end, but they use Patterson like a tight end. They use him the way Debo's been used in San Francisco. They've been doing it all year with Patterson, and I just think if he comes in at sub 5%, I think he will. He could get you 25 points. Yes, he needs the touchdown. You are not getting there and I don't have a ton of Patterson. I have like one lineup with Patterson, so it's not like I'm like, planting my flag on this guy. I just think there's an avenue for success with Patterson. But your point more so being that like the roster percentage is concentrated at those other guys. Eckler, Mixon, right around that Taylor price point, a little bit cheaper. They're going to have nobody. Najee Harris is going to have nobody. Not that I want to use Najee this week. Saquon's going to have nobody on him. Connor is probably coming down. Gaskin, I love lining up with the Dolphins defense. David Montgomery for less than Gibson, especially if the weather's crap. I mean, if you want to, or even if the weather's not crap, what's to say you don't run a Murray, Murray, Hopkins, Montgomery stack? That makes some sense to me. I do think there are pivot points you can make, but I don't think you have to. I think what you can do is you run, a Minnesota passing stack, or you run, I like Pittsburgh, I like Vegas, I like San Francisco or Seattle. You run those passing stacks, and then you still get chalky with your running backs. You put Madison in there. Who cares? You know what I mean? Like, if your quarterback is 5 and your receivers are each 5, you've got so much extra percentage to play with. You're in good shape if you run a 30% guy out there. You can have a 30% guy. And I think Madison actually ends up coming in lower than what he's projected at right now because no one's talking about him anymore. I just think anyone's talking about that Minnesota game at all, really, because people are so enamored with the Sony Michel, the Antonio Gibson, the Taylor, because people are like, oh, I can get up to Taylor. I don't need Madison. Or, I think he's going to overlooked a little bit. When everything comes down to it, I don't think he's going to be at 30%, be 18%, which is down. I think there are, I don't know. It's fun. I think it's a fun tournament week because of all this, because where the chalk is, it's really easy to come off the chalk. You just don't use them, or use someone else in that same price point. Like, you want to be a different receiver, just don't use Cup. You know what I mean? Like, just don't use Cup.
Yeah.
Use Thielen. Use DK Metcalf. I think DK Metcalf. I talked about this before you signed back in. There's so much talk about the DK Metcalf not getting enough targets, and I think they're gonna force feed him the ball this week, and I do think that game has the potential to get there with the score. San Francisco's defense is not great. And so I believe that Seattle stack makes some sense. You run Metcalf with Ayuk, or Metcalf with Mitchell, or I kind of like Juwan Jennings a little bit. He's seen a higher snap count lately, starting to get a little bit of the targets. Scored the touchdown last week. I think not a ton of targets, but I think he makes some sense as a really low on punt.
Yeah, there's
Brandon's seeing some love for DeAndre Carter this week. So
yeah, I mean there's a couple of guys at that low end this week. I know you talked about Nico Collins before, and you're just talking about Jennings. I think there's a lot of reason to like Josh Reynolds as well. Minnesota can be passed on. He came in and kind of took over that number 1 role pretty quickly last week, and then he's got a rapport with Jared Goff, and we all know just Goff is not
terrible.
What he once was, or kind of just any good, but there's always something to be said about a team that's going to be passing a lot most likely, and just guys that played together and kind of were thrown, I think there's something too with Reynolds and Goff just kind of being discarded so easily by the Rams, and kind of like, maybe coming together and, playing a little better just to stick it to them.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's
true.
true.
I'm looking something up, because the Giants because you touched on Barkley as well, and the Giants are so shorthanded. I want to see. I'm looking up something from that just came to my head, that Cowboy game. Let's see. What week was that? What week was it that the Giants played the Cowboys? Where Barkley and Jones both got hurt.
That was, who knows? We're gonna find it. Week 4, 3, week 4. Let's pull up the Giants game. Let's see. Barkley against the Cowboys. Week 5. Week 5.
It was week 5.
Yep.
Of course, I only got week 6. Shit.
Damn it, Gutta.
I know. I want to see. So what I'm looking, I want to see, because that was when Glennon played.
Glennon's so bad. He didn't do terrible in that game. I mean, all things considered.
Here.
Who did he throw to in that? Good Lord. Did John Ross have a game that week?
No, it was Tony. So.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Tony's not playing. What are you thinking about? What's your
so I'm looking to see what that was week 5, you said?
Yeah.
So I'm looking to see what Tony's ADOT was, if it was really, really weak. That
I'll tell you it was, because his longest that was that other week. Let's see. Tony, I mean, he had 18.9 yards per reception. He only had 138-yard pass, so I understand his ADOT could be lower because he ran a little bit. Dude looks just like R-Truth, by the way. wrestling fans out there. Wrestling, he could be R-Truth's younger brother. That's crazy.
K Quick?
Could be K Quick. Oh, K Quick, K Crush, R-Truth, Ron the Truth, same guy. Yep. Guy's so old, by the way. Guy's
yeah, all right. So he had.
Can you believe that?
He had a 10.6 ADOT that week. I mean, they were in a very. I mean, they also had. I mean, they had Slayton out that week. So, and then Barkley.
Slayton could be a play, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking more on the Barkley end potentially, only because, like, really, what the heck are they going to do with Glennon back there?
What they're going to do? He's going to get sacked 40 times. I mean, it's Dolphins blitz the crap out of people. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. Listen, this is the kiss of death for me because I do this every week, and then things have right last week. Wasn't it the Patriots game that I said we shouldn't touch, and then New England came out and put up like 500 points? But there are spots that I just won't touch. I won't touch the Giants. I won't touch the Jets this week. Like, there's just no point. And outside of James O'Shaughnessy, I'm not touching the Jaguars. I'm not touching the Falcons outside of Patterson. Like, there are just certain spots that I don't feel I need to go. I mean, I'll have just an infinite amount more Texans than I will Giants, Jets, and Giants, Jets, and Jaguars combined outside of O'Shaughnessy. And really, I feel similarly to Phil outside of Minshew. Like, I'm not big on Goddard. I'm not big on Smith. And I'm actually, with Boston Scott and Kenny Gainwell both active, I'm going to pull all the Miles Sanders out of my lineups this week, which means he's guaranteed a 30-point game. But I just don't – they spread the ball around too much. I don't see it with the Giants. I understand you're trying to find an angle. Barkley will come in at like 4%, 3%. Yeah, 1%, whatever he is, and if he does Barkley things, he's just not Barkley right now. And
that's been the other part too. He's just not. He hasn't been the same guy either, which is tough.
Interesting thing I'm doing this week, and I've been waiting to talk to you about this all day because I really want to see the look on your face. I'm doing this today in a tournament, one of my favorite tournament lineups. I'm running Minshew naked. And I'm doing it with this guy here and this guy here, little Taylor, little Gibson. I can't remember who else I have in my lineup. I think I have Collins and Jordan, if I'm not mistaken. I just pulled the lineup up, but I'm not going to. I'm going to build it again. I think I have Collins, Jordan. Are we laughing yet? Oh, I thought you were laughing.
Oh, no.
I believe
not yet.
Not yet. It's coming. I believe I have Keenan Allen in lineup as a run back for Mixon. So I've got Taylor with 2 run backs. I've got Mixon with the run back. And then I'm stacking. I believe I remember where this lineup goes. Okay. I'm stacking Gaskin with the Dolphins defense. And I think that leaves me money for Van Jefferson. If my mind is correct. No. Ooh, where did I go? Oh, no, that's right. Marquis Brown. And I'm running Martin solo. Like, is running Minshew naked at 4K because you can get so much else? Is that a viable strategy this week, or am I drunk? Or am I better off not running the double on the Taylor either, by the way? I could go up to Josh Reynolds and bring Marquise Brown down $400 or $300 to, I don't know, like a Hopkins or something. Or is this
I
just
think
stupid?
So Minshew naked, because of his price, is so much like, when I talk about some of these mid-range or lower end tight ends that you can use them individually without it being part of like a correlation, or even if it is in a correlation stack, the guys can get there without the touchdowns or without the quarterback necessarily going off. Because of Minshew's price, he can give you a good return without any of his guys necessarily going off. Now, in a tournament, you're going to want Minshew closer to like 20 points than that 15 points. So that becomes the hard part. If Minshew's getting closer to 20, he likely has one guy that's doing something big. If it's Goddard, it might hurt you a little bit because he's going to be one of the higher owned tight ends, I think. But if it's like Devontae Smith or Quez Watkins or just some random crap that happens, or even if it's Kenny Gainwell, it doesn't matter because they're not going to be owned. So I definitely think Minshew on his own is fine. You've got routes there.
You could run it with Devonta Smith and put Josh Reynolds in there, and then you have a little bit of correlation. And I would think this would play better in an early only tournament because this way you're avoiding. I don't have anyone in the late games here, so you don't have to worry about any of the San Francisco, Seattle players. You don't have to worry about any of the Baltimore, Pittsburgh, because I've just moved it around where I pulled Brown out. You don't have to worry about the Rams chalk, and then you don't have to worry about the Raiders chalk. So this one, like, you're really just competing against Tom Brady lineups, Charger stacks, Minnesota stacks, maybe Indy stacks, but you've got pieces to some of those games, like. I don't know. I think I'm going to go pull up the phone and put this in an early only tournament right now because I really think this plays. I think this plays an early only tournament. I really do. I think this makes some sense. I'm going to place in a massive multi-entry.
I love the spot with Gaskin for sure. I mean, he's been, which is odd because of what his price is and the matchups he's had the past couple of weeks and the chalk that he has drawn. That, I mean, to me, it's very interesting that he's not garnering that much attention this week in a really, really good spot. There's like, who does Miami even have active today? I mean, Miami's only got Ahmed and Laird active, and even that, like, last week, Ahmed had 6 touches, and Laird had nothing. But that game was also an easy blowout against Carolina, So Ahmed had 6 touches, but you had Gaskin. Gaskin had 18.
Yeah, so, and he keeps. They've been using him inside the 5 this year more than they they did last year, which I think is great.
Yeah.
All right. I had to put that lineup in an early only, and I did it in a massive multi-entry. Are we still? All right. Matt is tired of us talking about Minshew in Houston. Are we still using Sony Michel? Yeah. Yep. I'm doing this a lot in tournaments. I don't know how unique it's going to be, but I think this makes for a decent start in a lot of tournaments. I'm running Kupp and O'Shaughnessy. Because I can't not have the run back if there's a $600 run back at tight end. That just takes my position out of it. You can do a lot with the rest of your team if you start there, because now you've got those 3 guys who are sitting there at just over $15,000. It's $5,000 a player. Michelle can return $5,000 of price. Kupp can definitely return $5,000 of price, and O'Shaughnessy doesn't really have to because Kupp can go way over what $5,000 price. Like, those 3 guys should be able to pull you $16,000 worth of value. Definitely could. I don't know if they should, but they could. So yeah, I like that. Are you still using Michelle today?
Yeah, I'll use him. I'm gonna
Sonny Mitchell.
Yeah, I mean, I've got lineups because last night when I was building, I kind of talked myself into Henderson that just have some extra exposure to the 4 o'clocks. It's an easy enough pivot to make some changes because we got 4 o'clock games this week instead of the usual 3. So there's a couple of more options there, and just in general, it's a good spot. And I just wasn't attacking it because of the unknown. So I said, well, if the unknown's going to be there, if everybody's going to be thinking like me, and we're really going to get a game time decision for it, let me give myself some outs where. I have Henderson, then I can, get to Michelle. Maybe you get Michelle under 20% if it played like that. So I started, building. I mean, obviously, we've gotten more news this morning where it looks like Henderson's extremely limited or not even going to play. So you just kind of do it. But one thing I did right last night, too, was that I was somewhat worried about the fade on the Rams pass game. Just because after 3 straight losses, you would think going back home against kind of a hapless Jaguars team that this offense would come out for blood. And this is kind of like the specialty Stafford game, right? You kind of start to doubt it. You kind of look at him, he can't win the big games. Comes out and he drops 40 points on just an abomination of a team, right? And now with the Henderson and Michelle news, well, if Michelle's going to be garnering like 30, 40, maybe even 50%, they become more of a leverage too. So I think there's something to that. And you could even, if you wanted the Michelle exposure, you could even do it, when I write, you just kind of do a stack where you're looking for all the touchdowns. You do Stafford and Michelle and then either Kupp or Jefferson, depending how you want to build it. And you just kind of hope that, any non-passing touchdowns go to Michelle. And then you're going to obviously get the passing touchdowns with Stafford. And then hopefully the receiver that you pick is getting at least one, if not, two of them, depending where you go.
I mean, I think that's a really fun way to go right here. You just onslaught it. You could totally onslaught it and just go with all of them. That'll make it unique.
You can do it that way because Michelle can still give you 16 with volume alone.
Just pulling up just tinkering around here at what could viably work here.
Reynolds and Madison.
Will that work? Can I make that work? Will the numbers work? Let's see.
You actually might be just short.
300
right?
short.
Yeah.
But we can find other ways to make that work. But I mean, that's a decent start. And you throw the Bucks out there with Fournette, and you're kind of coming off that Gaskin Dolphins chalkiness. Not that I think Gaskin will be overly chalky, but there are just avenues here this works quite a bit. If you so chose to onslaught that game, you're in an okay spot there with that. Hey, you could always run Burkhead out there because everyone needs Rex Burkhead. Everyone needs Rex Burkhead in their life. Actually, I know I don't have the idea. I'm not in love with this. I'm just throwing it out. Pretty sure Burkhead Pittman works in this case. Yeah, it does. You have the money to pull that off. You want to get really weird. That's weird. That's almost too weird. I don't think you need to get. I think your roster percentage will be super low because you're only running a couple of chalky guys here. Is a little too weird for me, I think, and that's interesting coming from me because I don't. You know what you could do though? You know what you could do if you don't audit. Now you can go to your Madison Reynolds and just pay down for another wide receiver. So you got Madison. I love building lineups. I could do this. We should just do lineup building for an hour. Let's take a day, just build freaking lineups for an hour and not talk anything else but lineups that we're building. And just that would be a fun little show. Do that like a Friday night lineup build. If I had the patience to do. So let's see. You have $5,000 left. Can we pull this off? Can we pull off a $5,000 player that works? Hey, look, you can get your Giants exposure if you want now, because I know you love your Giants this week.
Yeah.
I mean, you could. This isn't gold, but there is something to this. Anywho, hey, look, it's 12 o'clock. It's show and end. Gutta, we did it. We made it. We got you talking. Let's see. We talked to some of our friends in the chat. We talked about prize picks with our promo code Bankster, 100% deposit bonus up to $100. We talked about Underdog Fantasy with our player props there, $10 bonus if you sign up using the promo code PHISIGGERS, PHISIGGERS. Talked about coming to Bankster DFS, the best DFS community there is for the casual player, $3.99 a week. And you could be a $17,000 to $20,000 winner like two of our members over the last 2 weeks in NHL. Look at that. There you go. Matt knows what's up. Matt coming in with the late comment of the day.
Don't give him ideas.
I could build 150 by hand, 150 hand build live stream, watch Doug blow his brains out on camera. Maybe we'll do that for week 18. Maybe I'll do a week 18, 10 p.m. Saturday night live stream where I just build 150. I stay there and I build 150 lineups. You all stay up for that. Guys, thank you for joining us. For Michael Gudadero and his working microphone, I am Doug Jane. This has been Bankster DFS, NFL Sunday, DFS Blitz, whatever we call this show now. BanksterDFS.com, $3.99 a week. Best of luck. We'll see you guys later.